The way is sauver. For 2 decades, you've been promised a secret that was always just out of reach. But tonight, we're cutting through the noise with the confirmed facts you've been searching for. For 20 long years, the shadowy promise of the Iraqi Dinar's overnight revaluation has been the ghost of the feast for countless investors. A whispered secret in the dark corners of the internet that always seemed to be just one sunrise away from becoming reality. But tonight, we are finally slaying that ghost with the one weapon it truly fears: the unvarnished, data-driven truth. Forget everything you thought you knew about secret contract rates and backroom deals in Zurich, because the real story, the one backed by hard financial data and central bank policy, is both more shocking and more strategically important for your money than any fantasy. The huge news breaking tonight isn't a number on a hidden screen. It's the culmination of a silent, tectonic shift in Iraq's financial infrastructure that the mainstream financial media has completely overlooked, and it fundamentally changes the game for every single IQD holder. While gurus were selling you dreams of Lamborghinis and beachfront properties, the Central Bank of Iraq was quietly executing a masterstroke of economic engineering, building a fortress of financial stability with nearly $95 billion in foreign exchange reserves. Let that number sink in for a moment. $95 billion. A war chest that represents not a launchpad for a revaluation, but a monumental defense fund designed to do one thing and one thing only: maintain the current exchange rate peg against the US dollar. This is the first brutal twist in our story, the one the hype artists don't want you to understand. The entire apparatus of the Iraqi financial system, supported by the International Monetary Fund, is not working towards a revaluation. It is fighting a daily, multi-front war to prevent a catastrophic devaluation. The real contract rates being negotiated aren't for your benefit. They are the difficult, ongoing negotiations with the IMF for continued support, tied to painful reforms like reducing a bloated public sector and weaning the economy off its suicidal dependence on oil, which still accounts for over 90% of government revenue. This creates a terrifying vulnerability, a single point of failure that keeps every serious economist and policymaker in Baghdad awake at night, because a sustained drop in global oil prices could vaporize those billions in reserves faster than you can imagine, forcing the central bank's hand into a devaluation scenario that would wipe out the savings of millions. So the next time you see a headline screaming about a contract rate reveal, I want you to replace that phrase in your mind with IMF standby agreement, because that is the only contract that truly matters right now. This is the reality of your investment. It is not a lottery ticket waiting to be cashed. It is a high-stakes bet on the political and economic stability of a nation still emerging from decades of conflict, a bet where the primary goal of the central bank is to avoid a collapse, not to engineer a windfall. This foundational understanding, this shift from fantasy to cold, hard fiscal reality, is the most critical intelligence you can possess, because it moves you from being a passive spectator in a game of whispers to an active, informed strategist who can see the real board and the real pieces in play. The 20-year wait wasn't for a magical number. It was for Iraq to reach this precise moment of fragile but measurable stability, a platform from which a genuine, organic future can now be built, and your journey to truly understanding that future starts right here, right now. Now that we've shattered the myth of the overnight revaluation and exposed the central bank's real mission of fortress-building stability, you're likely asking the one question that matters. Where does the genuine, data-backed opportunity actually lie? The answer, and the second monumental twist in this 2-decade-long saga, is that the real value isn't in waiting for a fictional contract rate, but in understanding and tracking the 5 powerful, interconnected engines that are actively shaping the dinar's destiny in real time, right now. The first and most powerful engine is, without a doubt, the relentless flow of black gold, Iraq's oil production, and export revenue. Every single barrel that gets pumped and sold on the global market translates directly into US dollars, flooding the central bank's coffers, and this river of foreign currency is the literal lifeblood that fuels the entire economy and backs the currency's value. When oil flows, the dinar remains stable, and when projections from OPEC Plus show an increase in production quotas, that translates directly into stronger fundamental support for the IQD, making oil reports your new best friend. The second engine is the central bank's own monetary policy and its monumental war chest of foreign reserves, which acts as a giant shock absorber for the economy. These reserves are the primary tool used to intervene in the forex market, buy dinars when there's selling pressure, and maintain the public's confidence, creating a self-reinforcing cycle of stability that is far more valuable in the short term than any speculative spike. The third engine, and perhaps the most complex, is the ongoing, high-stakes relationship with the International Monetary Fund, which has approved a multi-billion-dollar loan program tied not to a revaluation, but to a brutal list of structural reforms including reducing costly electricity subsidies, privatizing struggling state-owned enterprises, and fighting corruption. And each step Iraq takes towards fulfilling these obligations sends a powerful signal of credibility to the international investment community, slowly building the foundation for long-term, organic strength. The fourth engine is the wildcard of domestic political stability, where internal power struggles, the influence of Iran-backed factions, and the fragile coalition government in Baghdad can create sudden shocks of uncertainty that spook investors and weaken the currency overnight, proving that the dinar's value is as much a political asset as it is an economic one. And the fifth and final engine is the global macroeconomic environment, specifically the interest rate decisions made by the U.S. Federal Reserve. When the Fed raises rates, it often strengthens the U.S. dollar, putting downward pressure on pegged currencies like the dinar, meaning your investment is indirectly tied to decisions made in Washington, not just Baghdad. Understanding these five engines, oil, reserves, IMF reforms, politics, and global rates, is like being given the master blueprint to the dinar's future. It moves you from a passive holder hoping for a miracle to an active analyst who can read the headlines, interpret the data, and make informed decisions based on the real forces moving the market. This is the strategic high ground that separates the successful investor from the perpetual dreamer, and it's the only way to navigate the high-risk, high-reward landscape of an emerging market currency with clarity and confidence, fully aware that the real profit isn't in a secret number, but in the mastery of the system itself. So, with the five real-world engines now roaring in the background, oil, reserves, IMF reforms, politics, and global interest rates, where does this leave us, the investors, staring at the chessboard of the dinar's future? The final and perhaps most crucial revelation is that the path forward is not a single, predetermined destination, but a spectrum of distinct, data-backed scenarios, each with a clear probability and a set of triggers that we can monitor together, transforming anxiety into a strategic action plan. The most likely path, holding a solid 60% probability according to current economic projections, is a continued era of managed stability, where the Central Bank of Iraq successfully uses its vast reserves to keep the dinar pegged firmly within its current trading band, hovering between 1,300 and 1,320 IQD per US dollar. This is the scenario of grinding patience, where no dramatic windfalls occur, but the catastrophic collapse is also averted, rewarding those who understand that in the world of emerging markets, stability itself is a form of victory. However, the bullish case, carrying a tangible 25% probability, is where the real organic growth story unfolds, triggered not by a secret meeting but by the successful culmination of Iraq's structural reforms, a significant and sustained spike in global oil prices above $100 a barrel, and a landmark debt forgiveness agreement with international partners, which together could propel the dinar to a gradual, credible, and sustainable appreciation of 3 to 5% over a 12 to 18-month period, a gain built on the unshakable bedrock of genuine economic improvement rather than speculative dust. But we must never ever ignore the bear case, which holds a 15% probability and serves as the essential warning siren for every investor. This scenario would be activated by a perfect storm of a sharp collapse in oil prices, a severe breakdown of the political order in Baghdad leading to government paralysis, or a sudden withdrawal of IMF support, any of which could force the central bank's hand into a controlled devaluation of 10 to 15% to preserve its remaining foreign reserves. A move that would protect the nation's economic sovereignty but would devastate the portfolios of those who bought into the hype at its peak. This is the ultimate call to awareness. The 20-year wait has been a prolonged national reconstruction project, and your role is now to evolve from a passive spectator into a vigilant analyst, tracking specific, publicly available indicators like the Central Bank of Iraq's monthly reserve statements, the official oil export figures published by SAMO, the public conclusions of the IMF's annual Article 4 consultations with Iraq, and the volatile headlines emerging from the Iraqi parliament. By anchoring your strategy to this real-time data, you create your own intellectual fortress, impervious to the desperate rumors of gurus who profit from your confusion and immune to the emotional roller coaster of unverified online claims. The journey of the Iraqi dinar is no longer a mystery waiting to be solved. It is a complex, yet transparent, economic narrative that you are now equipped to read, interpret, and navigate with the confidence of someone who operates not on hope, but on hard evidence and strategic foresight, finally placing you in control of your financial destiny amidst the swirling currents of global finance.